from Jack Duncan against the Mariners. This is Michael Morone. Has Ocheng alongside him. And opts to go for the cross, which was over the head of Thurio by quite some distance. Michael Morone has just signed a new contract. The Reds starting to sort out a few of those contractual issues ahead of next season.
Korean player to whom you referred pre-game, that's not Danny Choi, is it?
All I was told is that it's a Korean.
Well, I wouldn't be sad if it was Danny Choi. The plan was for him to rejoin Adelaide in time for the Champions League.
Well, let's see if you're right this week.
As I understand it, his Australian citizenship hasn't been dealt with finally. Although I may be wrong there, and the sooner I am on that front, the better. Exciting young player.
Spectators just caught one on the bonds from his clearance. He's wearing a wide-brimmed hat. Maybe he didn't see it coming. You had one of those on pre-game, Andy.
Too right.
Doing your Dick Tracy impression.
Trying to be sun smart, Simon.
Yeah.
I've already lost that battle. Try not to lose the war.
Absolutely, mate. Very wise. Dylan McGowan. Morone. Back they'll come through the defensive line, including Jakob Oloroka here. McGowan looking for the diagonal switch. It's pinpoint too. Straight onto the foot of Ben Garucho. Fires it across with plenty of pace. Dealt with by Jacob Poscolaro. Back with Dylan McGowan. Who again fires it out towards Garucho, who applauds the pass. Tries to hang it up towards Ocheng. Mariners have not quite found their rhythm in these early stages.
They've been terrible, haven't they? Really sluggish start. One burst down the field, and probably to sum up the approach so far, Roy O'Donovan tripped over his own feet. The supporting cast to this point has been pretty ordinary for the Mariners.
Galloway getting away from Ocheng. It's not a bad release either, and O'Donovan onto it in a flash. And onside as well. Squares it up for Nick Montgomery, who's going to have a hit with his left foot, which is not his favoured one. Never really looked confident, did he, the Mariners skipper?
No, but they sprang to life, thankfully. A really impressive little attack. This is the tail end, of course. Unglamorous tail end to the attack, but the lead-up was good. Sprightly was O'Donovan as he split the defence with his run off the ball. Set up the chance ultimately for Montgomery.
Praise for Scott Galloway's early work in that move. McGowan, little touch around the corner by Ocheng. Morone, decent delivery, evades the lunging Liam Rose, and Galloway's kept the ball in play, has he? No. He says the whole of the ball hasn't crossed the line.
Yeah, no, it was out. It was a great effort from Garucha. Good cross from Morone too. And this is probably, by my reckoning, the third occasion where Adelaide just haven't had a front man to finish it off.
Story of their season.
Yeah. Writ large already today, 10 minutes in.
What do you know of Baba? Or Barber, I don't know how you pronounce it. We know he's Senegalese and he's been playing in Spain.
And that's what I know.
Right. Thought your scouts would have been onto that one, Andy.
Well, there have been players going and others supposedly coming for weeks at Adelaide now. Leaving their run late.
Perhaps instructive that three of Adelaide's biggest signings this season, Enrique, Holland, Guardiola, none of that trio have lasted out the season.
That's an interesting point.
Liam Rose to carry it forwards. It's a good run too. Oh, beautiful by Liam Rose. Oh, O'Donovan and Bahaja now. The flag was up by Alison Flynn. I'm not sure O'Donovan was offside. The replay will be instructive. Bahaja probably was. And the Mariners not best pleased, to say the least. Let's have another look at it. Well, no. O'Donovan is a mile on, yeah. And Bahaja might have been on as well.
Yeah, and you know, the flag went up really early, thinking that Bahaja was going to get the ball, and that's a poor piece of adjudication from a very capable official. Went off way too early then. And O'Donovan was clearly onside.
Rose free kick. Bouncing ball favours McGing. Montgomery trying to get goal side of Tarek Elrich. Oh, Montgomery's gone down in some discomfort. We'll keep an eye on that. Meantime, Fabio Ferreira dropping in where Montgomery probably should have been. And I'm not sure Montgomery hasn't picked up a serious knock here. Let's hope it's just a flesh wound. Seemed to fall, collapse in fact awkwardly on that ankle. Let's have another look at it. Oh, he's gone over on it. No, hurts, but maybe not as serious as it first looked. Let's hope not anyway.
He's rolled that awkwardly.
Just watch Storm Rue with the drinks. Just left the field.
A chance for the players to have a drink on this warm afternoon. A chance for Paul Ocon to have a think while Nick Montgomery gets some attention. Let's get some news from Daniel Garb on the sideline.
Yeah, they are worried about this, Nick Montgomery. As soon as he went down, the Mariners bench said to me that does not look good at all. So that's a concern. The other reason for concern for them, of course, was the offside that Roy O'Donovan was flagged for a moment ago. It looks onside, and Paul Ocon, when he saw the replay, as you can imagine, wasn't happy. The words that came from his mouth, boys, were, "That is unbelievable."
Well, there's not just one defender between O'Donovan and the goalkeeper, there's two. Nick Montgomery back up on his feet. He's a tough guy, made from Sheffield steel. And he'll want to continue if he possibly can. Always gives it his all. You can almost say gives it the full Monty. He's going to give it a crack, see if he can continue.
Well, he's been the leader of the band here for long enough.
Talking of which, where is the band today, Ed?
In this heat, mate, they lose at least a semitone.
Oh, risky from Izzo, and they've turned it over. Central Coast, here's Ocheng. Garucho darting to the front post to make an angle, but Thurio couldn't find him. Helped on by Isaias, only to the feet of Jake McGing. Montgomery back with us and moving freely enough, it seems, for the moment. Storm Rue leading the Mariners charge. Straight at Michael Morone. Montgomery. Finding Connor Payne, who steers it into the path of Galloway. Back with Payne. Better spell this for the Central Coast after a rather sleepy opening. And a foul on Jordan O'Doherty by Payne.
Yeah, all of a sudden they look good. 10 minutes in the sleeping bag. And they've awoken. The Mariners very sharp.
A sleeping bag in this weather?
Well,
the hammock, surely.
I don't know, they were that sleepy. And good combination. Just not quite coming off in the end, but Galloway and Payne linking, forcing the Adelaide players back.
Elrich being pursued by Bahaja, who committed the infringement. Paul Ocon's not happy about that. You kidding me, Sean? Sean says, no. Free kick for me. What about you, Andy?
Well, I thought it was play on, to be honest.
I suppose technically he's tackling from behind, but
you know,
anyway.
I thought it was a bit of soft play from Tarek Elrich, who was there to be punished. Anyway, we make a pledge not to tick over every decision that referees make.
Agreed. Riley McGree finding a pocket of space between the lines. Here's Garuccio. 3 in the box. Easily done by Liam Rose. What do you make of Liam Rose's work in the centre of that Mariners defence? We're more used to seeing him in midfield.
That's what we sort of came used to. He's a good young player. You know, look, it's swings and roundabouts for guys like Liam Rose.
Let's just watch how this develops from Ocheng. That's going to be a corner.
Do you relish the opportunity you get of virtually guaranteed game time, which is very precious for a young guy coming through, or is it an added burden playing in a team where the club has been struggling? Much better this year, of course, the Mariners. Much better. The difficulties of the calamitous season last year, how he navigated a course through that was a very good testament for the young fella's character.
Won the Mariners medal, of course, last season, their player of the year. He and his teammates have got some defending to do here from the Adelaide corner, which Jake McGing deals with. Elrich. He's going at a fair old lick. Then Garuccio couldn't reel it in. Dan Garuccio been one of the brighter spots of a disappointing Adelaide season. Another one who's playing a slightly different sort of role this season. Now Ferreira's got away from 2 Reds defenders. It's Fabio Ferreira and Tarek Elrich stuck with him. Maybe should have squared it up, Fabio Ferreira. He had Bahaja available. Wanted to go himself.
Well, really, it's a chance that comes from nothing. The Reds, it's Keystone Cop stuff. Just run into each other. Cue the Benny Hill music. Not so from Tarek Elrich, who decided, I've got to do some serious work or we're going to be behind. Well done, Tarek Elrich.
Mariners' first corner. Montgomery's delivery. Header from Isaias. Finding his compatriot Therio. Ball's just run away from him. Otherwise, there was a decent break on there for Adelaide.
He'd gotten the better of Scott Galloway, you'd reckon. Or maybe Scott Galloway was comfortable that ball was going to roll out, so he just slowed up.
Ferreira still thinking about this opportunity.
Well, he sized him up well, Tarek Elrich. Is really experienced defending. Had 2 to worry about. He made sure that any doubt on Fabio Ferreira's mind and forced him down that corridor where he could then snuff out the shot. Great defending from Tarek Elrich.
As we head towards the 20-minute mark, after that bright start by Adelaide, it's been Mariners who've forced the better openings. Could and perhaps really should have converted at least one of them. Offside flag wrongly raised, denying them another opportunity. As Ferreira sprays it out towards Connor Payne, looking to attack Michael Morone. He stood his ground. Another corner for the Central Coast.
Well set attack by the Mariners, which started on the left, took form down the right, then a beautiful pass through the middle, ultimately then finding Connor Payne again on the left, and Morone this time defending very well for Adelaide.
Connor Payne, of course, who scored that brilliant winner against Adelaide the last time these two teams met, in the early part of the season at Coopers. Montgomery towards O'Donovan, who's got the better of Isaias, who then had to try and recover at the expense of another corner. Last touch off Dylan McGowan. Montgomery again, deeper this time. Donovan waiting in the right position. Not sure he was entirely expecting that ball to find its way through to him. Quick release by Galekovic. Good one too for O'Doherty. And this is McGree. Back with O'Doherty. Bit of space here for Morone. Nothing on for him. McGowan to carry it forward. Ocheng. He and Garucha have swapped flanks for the moment. We saw Melbourne Victory do that last night with Rojas and Calfala. Just keeps the opposition guessing. Lovely angle ball by LaRocca, but bit of bite in the challenge from Scott Galloway and Ben Garucha. I don't think Galloway will mind too much the challenge of the left-footed Garucha, even though it is number 19 for Adelaide who gets the effort away, and it's deflected off for a corner for the Reds. Galloway equally adroit with either right or left foot. See what the Reds can produce here. Taken short by Garucho for Therio. William rose away and then thumped high up into the warm afternoon sky by Ocheng. And that's the signal for the first drinks break. What have you made of it so far, Andy Harper?
Difficult conditions, 9v10 on the ladder. Some good attacking play, nevertheless. One of the Mariners' moves unrewarded because of too hasty decision from the assistant referee. Adelaide, some good delivery into the penalty area, no striker to finish it off. And the Mariners with a couple of really impressive raids, well defended on two occasions, once by Tarek Elrich of Adelaide, the second time by Michael Morone. So I'm expecting goals. The way the first 20 minutes has shown, it's been pretty open, and there'll be goals in this one.
Okay, let's go down to Dan Garb, who stood in front of that big fan that's blasting out air, but it's the wrong way for you, Garby.
I know it's not helping me much at all, Simon, but really it's not too bad down here. There is a nice breeze. I'm sure it's much tougher for these boys out there playing, running around in this heat. For me, it's okay. So I'm all right, but they deserve that drinks break, that is for sure. Nick Montgomery deserves it as well. That ankle injury is bothering him a little bit, but they say he's tough over here and he'll get through until the half, and then they'll assess him again. Now, Paul Ocon is concerned about the centre of midfield. A couple of times he said to Jake McGing, you're ball watching. Make sure you watch what's going on around you rather than the ball in that holding midfield position. McGree and O'Doherty, two youngsters playing with freedom at the moment. That's great to watch, boys.
Sure is. Thanks very much, Garby. Yeah, fair assessment by Paul Ocon. They were very sluggish in that area of the park in particular, Andy, in the opening stages. Seemed to get it together a bit as the half progressed, as we remind you of the conditions here today, 33 degrees.
Yeah, it was a terrible opening 10 minutes from the Mariners. That's when Adelaide had this great opportunity presented to them to really do some damage. Well, they weren't able to, for reasons that we've seen pretty much week on week through this A-League campaign. And then the Mariners came to life, which made it a much more worthy contest.
Jacopo LaRocca all over Roy O'Donovan. Montgomery. Bohaja. Storm Road completely losing out. It's probably too high for him anyway. Difficult afternoon in prospect potentially for Stormroo with the tricky Ben Garuccio in direct opposition. He nips in ahead of Garuccio there. This is Poscolero. Forced to check by Thirio. Stormroo having a check. Release from Montgomery slightly behind him. Last touch off Ben Garuccio. It's going to be a Mariners throw it. And the final touch off Garuccio. Trent Bohaja. Again, Elrich quick in the tackle, but it's a good cross by Stormroo, and Connor Payne threw himself at the ball. Elrich with the clearance, who was then collected late by Trent Bohaja in his eagerness to retrieve it for the Central Coast. No suggestion of any foul there, Andy?
No. No, I don't think so. It was he did well to make any sort of presence there at all. Connor Payne.
Has Eugene Galekovic got a bit of a problem here? John Hall has been going through some warm-up exercises in the last few minutes. Interesting. There was no hint of a problem for Galekovic pre-game. Whether there's an issue with the shoulder or the back. John Hall hasn't featured all season, the reserve goalkeeper for Adelaide United. His last appearance, in fact, in the A-League was all the way back in November 2015. He's certainly on red alert for the Reds, should Galekovic be unable to continue. Watching Galekovic after the ball was released there off the boot. He's holding that right shoulder, and he's now out to meet Trent Bohaja. I don't think he's going to be able to continue.
He can't continue.
There's no way he can go on. And they've got to make a change quick, Adelaide.
Well, I don't know what they're waiting for. McGear Moore's now left his seat.
Ferreira with the cross. They've got a lame goalkeeper, Adelaide. The Mariners have got to try and make hay while the sun shines here.
Just get it on target, Mariners.
And for Adelaide, just get the ball out. Yeah. He's holding that right shoulder area. And you could see when he then came to sprint out to meet Trent Bohaja that he was in enough discomfort to say he couldn't go on, and still they're not going to make the change. John Hall's not ready. Well, this is extraordinary, Andy.
Well, it is if the Mariners don't lump it in. Now Eugene's gone down again.
Well, John Hall's been warming up for a good 5 or 6 minutes.
Well, the Mariners are being very chivalrous for this.
Overly generous,
well,
some would say.
Stormroo could see that Eugene was down on one knee. He wasn't going to throw the ball in. The refs were just not responding. Anyway, business is done.
Well, let's hope that's only a short-term issue for Eugene Galekovic. But it's a big moment for John Hall, 22-year-old goalkeeper, who, as we say, last featured back in November 2015, a 4-2 away defeat in Wellington. And he's on for just his 8th appearance in the Hyundai A-League. Captain Captain's armband goes to Tarek Elrich as the elder statesman.
The other cross that Adelaide have to bear with this, of course, is that it's not an overly comfortable day to play football, and that's one sub used, and you don't normally use it on a goalkeeper on days like today. Fatigue's going to be an issue. Back end of the game. Adelaide down to 2 subs.
We'll try and determine what the exact nature of that problem is for Eugene Galekovic when we can. Meantime, here's a first touch for the new goalkeeper. Go is the cry for Trent Bahaja. Put LaRocca under pressure, and perhaps more importantly, the young goalkeeper is fresh to the game. But he acquitted himself quite well, I seem to remember, in his brief stint at the start of last season when Galekovic was out with injury.
Yeah, it looked difficult for young goalkeepers trying to get game time. Even more difficult when the bloke in front of you is someone like Eugene, who's been so outstanding. But John Hall did do well. Adelaide fans can hopefully rest a little comfortable that he'll be able to keep the Mariners at bay here this afternoon in Canberra.
Paul Izzo, of course, at the other end of the park, knows all about playing second fiddle to Eugene Galekovic. It's one of the reasons he went to the Central Coast to get first-team football. It's a hospital ball for Ferreira. He did really well, actually, under serious pressure from Riley McGree, and he's felt the full weight of that challenge. The former Adelaide United winger. Play continues with Scott Galloway, who's got the better of Isaias. Here's Nick Montgomery, and again was trying to set himself, you fancy, for the effort on goal. Might have committed a foul in the follow-up challenge. Short Evans happy to let it ride. Jake McGee for Payne, almost slipping it through. Good stretch by Dylan McGowan, then a foul by O'Donovan.
Yeah, it's a great stretch from McGowan. Nice little ball from McGing. He's had a couple of good moments in the centre midfield there. Jake McGing. And the target here was O'Donovan, who tried as hard as he could, just couldn't get there on time.
It was a Gaelic football challenge. I think Paul Ocon's given his owner a bit of a hurry up this week by suggesting that they re-sign Roy O'Donovan. I don't think it's the first time he's said that.
I'm sure there have been plenty of discussions in Mariners land about giving the football operation a kick along. They've certainly done a good job, Paul Ocon. What a position on the table that he's enjoying. I'm sure none of the players are as well, but they've been very, very competitive this year.
LaRocca, a real arm wrestle for the ball with O'Donovan. Poscalero. Galloway. Connor Payne didn't read that. Morone did. This is Therio. Elrich trying to give him an option. McGree. Garucha. Back through LaRocca. McGowan. Riley McGree, chance to turn and try and drive forward. The infringement, though, by Fabio Ferreira. Continuing that more central role. Ochek firing it across, and Poscalero knew he had to deal with it. And volleyed forward by Galloway. Michael Morone. O'Doherty. Morone. And for Ocheng. Chance for him to centre again. Might drop here for Tarek Elrich. With the aid of rather fortunate deflection off Montgomery. Teasing cross. And Izzo is out to gather safely for the Central Coast.
Yeah, really good playing from Paul Izzo. Again, Adelaide making Good progress up to around the penalty area. Just no presence inside the penalty area. When that ball is hit in from either side, most objective observers are not really expecting Adelaide to do much.
Bahaja first time ball, it's awkward for John Hall, who went scampering after it. Managed to make the block initially from Payne. The goal is unguarded. It's Fabio Ferreira. It's the opening goal for the Central Coast. John Hall couldn't get back in time, and Fabio Ferreira scores against his old club in the 37th minute.
Well, while Adelaide weren't threatening at the other end of the field, Bahaja's speed opens up Adelaide on the right-hand side. John Hall in no man's land, really. Do I come and get the ball, or do I sit and protect my line? He got caught in that position. I'm not doing either. He blocks the first effort. Rather speculative this from Connor Payne in the end. And they just can't clear their lines. It's a pretty good finish, really. Great technique. Didn't have a lot of power on it, but the direction was perfect from Fabio Ferreira.
Well, always a pleasure to score against your old club, particularly one that's deemed you surplus to requirements, which of course Adelaide did a season or two ago. And arguably that injury to Eugene Galekovic has cost Adelaide dearly. John Hall, fresh to the game, and perhaps just didn't read that cross well enough. We'll get an injury update from Daniel Garb on Eugene Galekovic in a moment. Let's see if the Reds can respond. Here's Tariq Elrich. Cute little cutback for Garucho, goes down inside the box. Penalty appeal waved away by Sean Evans, who was right on the spot. And the Mariners looking to set up a counter through Fabio Ferreira, who tried to clip it through and caught the arm of Isaias. Let's get that injury update on the Adelaide goalkeeper Eugene Galekovic, as Isaias has shown a yellow card from Daniel Garb.
Yeah, Simon, Adelaide's woes worsen. The news from their bench is that they fear Eugene Galekovic may have torn his lateral muscle in his shoulder. Now, I'm no physio, but I dare say for a goalkeeper, that spells out to me a fair spill on the sidelines.
Yeah, not great news. Thanks, Garby. Maybe good news for John Hall. I'd suggest he gets a run in the first team. They've got Perth at home next week. More defending to do potentially for him here. Trent Bahaja trying to skip around Tariq Elrich, who got back goals side in double quick time. And no foul on Garucho, which he can't quite believe. Here's Fabio Ferreira. Nick Montgomery has nobody outside him, at least in front of him on that left wing. And it's all Mariners.
Yep. And that injury to Eugene Galekovic, any sort of seriousness to him, is going to make his involvement in the Champions League hugely questionable.
Yeah. Maybe need further reinforcements. Not just a Senegalese striker and an unnamed Korean. This is Therio for Oche. Of course, they do have a young goalkeeper, Daniel Margush. But to go into a Champions League campaign with two young, inexperienced keepers, symptomatic of the problems they've had to endure this season. The Reds, the reigning champions, of course. McGowan. Thirio. Driving at the Mariners' defence. Oche. What's his delivery like? It's not too bad. It's off the shoulder of Storm Roux and behind for a corner.
I think that's the best way for Adelaide to get back into this game. Sayers now sitting on a yellow card because of the handball, which stopped an attack, a promising attack, a very promising attack. Adelaide's best way forward here is to, as best they can, carry the ball via combinations and speed of dribbling into the penalty area. The crossing game is just bereft for them.
Garucho's corner too deep. That yellow card for Isaias, incidentally, his 8th of the season. So he's out as well next week against Perth, along with potentially Eugene Galekovic. rains, but it pours for the Reds, even on a hot day in Canberra. Here's Ocheng. Too close to Izzo.
He's got the taste for it today, Fabio Ferreira. Scored the goal, of course, which separates the teams. He's working right across the line, unshackled today, picking up the ball in space. Such a dangerous player when he's on song.
Here he is again, but he's turned into trouble in the shape of Isaias. Garucho. Thirio. Get a little nudge there from Jake McGinn. The Reds thought so.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it from where we sit.
Head in hands, Guillemot. It's almost been the default position this season. What can go wrong has gone wrong. Things looking a little brighter for Paul Ocon's outfit. Just a reminder, if they were to get the points here today, that would bring them to within 5 of Western Sydney Wanderers in 6, whom they play away from home next weekend. There's the As-Live ladder. Adelaide, if they were to lose today, well, surely they'd be odds on for the wooden spoon for just the second time in the A-League era.
And would be the second time in the A-League era that a team's gone from the penthouse to the outhouse.
The other one being Newcastle. Back in season 08-09. Just 12 months after they lifted the title under Gary Van Egmond. Here's Bahaja, whose pace might take him away from Elrich. Elrich just trying to hold him there. O'Donovan available. Might break for Fabio Ferreira. It's well defended in the end by the Reds, as they were light on numbers there. McGinn. Rose. Oh, it was the right idea, and it very nearly found its way through for Trent Bahaja, who was away on his bike, anticipating just that sort of release. Storm Roux. And again, Bahaja has sprung the offside trap. No flag this time. What about the centre? O'Donovan, heavy touch. Goal kick. But that little combination has huge potential for the Mariners.
Well, Adelaide prone up near halfway, just didn't adjust at all. Storm Roux had time twice to try and execute that pass for Trent Bahaja. Adelaide didn't adjust at the first hint, so Storm Roux released him the second time. A difficult one for O'Donovan to control.
Garucho. Looking to get around the back of Storm Roux. McGree. Well-timed run by Garucho. Again, the cross is somewhat disappointing. Pops out for Isaias. Garucho is coming back from an offside position. Sean Evans says that's a goal kick. Isaias wanted a free kick.
Well, they've been having their own private battle, these two, Montgomery and Isaias. Couldn't say that's uncharted territory for either player. Montgomery winning on that occasion.
Catalonia against the People's Republic of South Yorkshire. And we're into first half stoppage time. Up and under from Storm Roux. Awkward for LaRocca. Did well. Hit the bar last week against Wellington. Effort that, given the way the game turned out, might well have won the points for the Reds, as Elrich is shoved over. back heel for Ocheng. It's really well worked by the Reds. Fired in low, touched by Thirio. Garucho, what a save. What a stop that is from Paul Izzo. Had to go with the feet, had no time to readjust, and still got his body in the way.
Well, this is more like it from Adelaide because they carried the ball and measured it around the penalty area, made the incursion. The cutback was great. The shot from Garucho was serviceable. The save from Izzo was outstanding.
The Reds' first shot on target. And it's produced this corner. Which Roy O'Donovan boots upfield to safety. It should just about see us through to half-time. Neatly brought down out of the air by Montgomery. Still we go on. Higgins releases a good one. Storm Roos continued his run. Harger maybe just slipped on contact there. Ocheng is quick and he's burst through two challenges. Thirio's not quite going to be quick enough to get around Liam Rose, and that'll do for the first half. It's been a pretty entertaining first 45, given the very warm conditions here in Canberra. Fabio Ferreira's goal is the one that separates the two teams. After John Hall, the replacement for the injured Eugene Galekovic, went scrambling across his goal to try and meet Connor Payne. And the return cross was dispatched expertly by Ferreira into the corner of the net. And it's the Mariners who lead the Reds at the break by a goal to nil. Let's join Daniel Garb.
Thanks, Simon. I'm with Roy O'Donovan. Roy, you've got the lead that you wanted, but this is a must-win game for you, and you started so slowly. What changed?
Yeah, the heat really is kind of slowing everything down. But a great goal from Fabio, great technique. We know that's what he's capable of, but you're right, we need to up the tempo in the second half, grind it out. Another 3 points will be valuable to us.
You are a much better second-half team than a first-half team. How much confidence does that give you that you can get the all-important 3 points?